I'm working on rewriting the Preoptimizer for the Frish project. So I've written a very simple grammar here, and I've written the rewriter rules here. When I run it, the verbose on stuff is, I'm checking the rules, the rewrite rules as I go, and those appear in the log file. Yeah, there they are, and you can use grep to get rid of the obvious overkill on low-level stuff. Now, if I look at, I have test.frish, and what I expect to happen, the way I've written the grammar, I expect this thing to remove this def synonym and to replace that XXX with 0. Expect nothing here, and this is a def synonym, but it's more complicated, and so I should be ignoring it and leaving this alone. And likewise with this one. And if we look at out.1.frish, this is the intermediate form with the line numbers stuffed in, and it looks like it hasn't worked the way I expected. It left the def synonym in, and it didn't do the replacement. It did leave this def synonym in, but that's probably because of the earlier problem up here. And that gets compiled to Python, I think is worthish.py. And let's see, do create. Oh, create, there it is. So it's actually allocated a variable called XXX and used it here. We're trying to optimize that away and put a 0 in here. And it ain't working. So I'm going to grab the preopt.ohm, and just copy the whole thing, go to the ohm editor, which I've opened in a browser, and I'm going to stuff the grammar into here, scan it to see if there's any pink error messages. There aren't any, so it looks like the grammar's okay. And then the example file that I need to put in here is going to be the intermediate form, so out.0.frill. So there's the stuff that goes into the optimizer. I'm going to copy that, put it in here, and I expect to see this being recognized as a def synonym. And here's the tree. So there's the 1 there, line 1. And then we go to function, create, open, close paren, open squiggly, line 2. And we get to the def synonym, and it's treating it like any other character and hasn't pattern matched the whole block as I had expected. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy that line. And I'm going to stuff it into another example. I'm going to take out spaces just to help my eyeballs, and I'm going to tell it that I want it to parse it as a it's a pattern memo macro. And well, if we look back here, test.frish. So that's the line I put in there. And it's telling me that it went here. There we go. So if I hover over the pattern memo macro, it lights up this section. It says that's where it went, and that's what it got. So if it found the def synonym, an ID, the triple equal, and a simple pure expression which boils down to an int. And so something before that is sucking up the, so it's something here that's causing this pattern to not be recognized. My first guess is I've done something wrong here. Block innards. So instead of matching one character at a time, I'm matching a whole pile of characters, one or more of, and then doing more block innards. So let's see if I just take that away. So it now becomes don't match a closed squiggly. Don't match the pattern itself with any more def synonyms. Match one any, and then recursively look for more of this stuff. So do we get any further with that? Nope. What we see here is that it's giving us a green bar here and here saying the parse succeeded, but parse isn't doing what I wanted it to. The parse succeeded because of this line here. It's accepting all these characters as single any's. What else could be going on here? So I would have thought it doesn't even need that. That didn't change anything. No. There we go. So match one character that isn't one of those. So it should have matched the def synonym, the pattern, should have matched that. The apply syntactic is an ohm thing. The ohm rules start with lowercase or uppercase. If they're uppercase, ohm will skip spaces. If they're lowercase, it defaults to normal peg behavior, parsing expression grammar behavior, where you have to worry about spaces. If you try to use a capitalized rule inside one of these lowercase rules, you have to surround it with this to say, I really want to do that. And what should be happening is it comes in here. It either if it matches an open brace, then it takes all characters, including spaces, up to a closing brace. No, it does block innards. There probably needs to be a plus here and a plus there. That didn't change anything. What am I missing here? Match. It should apply with space skipping this rule. Fire the rule in the rewriter called memo pattern memo macro, and then keep going for more. So it should do this, and then see if there's any more left, and keep looping around recursively that way. I've put the number sign here that says don't do space skipping here, even though it's an uppercase letter. That actually could have been, from the looks of it, that could have been lowercase. That could have been lowercase. And that didn't need the number sign. Okay. It's not complaining about it, but it didn't help. So it should be complaining about this. Oh, no. No, it shouldn't. That's correct. It's still an apply syntactic. It's called a syntactic rule if it's got uppercase. So we're applying a syntactic rule at this point. What's going on So it should go into a block. It should go into a block. And then if the block contains more open close squigglies, it should recursively parse the insides of that, allowing for more squigglies. Failing that, it should go to the next rule, which is this one that I'm hoping it worked. And failing that both of those two, then it goes into this rule that says, as long as it's not a closed squiggly, I'll take anything, and keep going. So what else can we do here that we said it's a memo macro, so we've tested this and it seemed to pattern match the way I wanted it to. We can try setting this to block innards there. And that appeared to work. So it saw this. I'm showing spaces. There we go, spaces. So, it was space skipping on that. And, it really doesn't matter to me. But if I turn off showing spaces, it looks funny up here. But there's actually a space there. So it does the ID spaces, the triple equal spaces or equivalence spaces, and a simple pure expression. And then it tries for more spaces and more block innards and doesn't get there, and explaining the parse. There we go. So it said it didn't find any more block innards. It's in red. What else could be going wrong? If I try to make that a block. So let's make that a block. And it should. It says it was a block. So we just keep backing up and looking to see what else caused it to go nuts here. So we got the block stuff. Oh, function do create. That's the problem. I'm only pattern matching for subbers at the moment. So if I change that to subber, that should. Subber ID, oh, and no parens. I'm dealing with the wrong one, then, so it's really here. It should be a subber. Something changed. Let's hope. Go right back to the front. There it is. So it found the scope for subbers only, and then dove into it. Subber block, yes. Block, I can expand the block. So it's doing deep recursion here. Where are we looking at this? There. Now I was looking at the wrong block. Okay. Subber create that block, and it goes in and it finds the pattern, memo macro. Yeah. That seems fine. And if we were to add a function, functions can have arguments. So let's call that arg char star, 0 or more arg chars, followed by that, followed by a blob is a func blob. And then I go down here. I need to do an arg char equals. No. It's not a close paren. Oh, I wanted to do, if I see an open paren, then I should see more arg chars and maybe more arg char question marks, recursive. And if we don't see a close paren when it's an any, now what happened? So we go down to somewhere here, do const. Oh no, if we change this back to function. Function create. Didn't work. Let's look at, okay, my example's wrong. So I put that in there. Go all the way to the front again. Function create. That's a scope. And there's a block within the scope. And it matches the pattern. So let's leave it at that. Then we want this grammar. Preopt.roll. Add that grammar. And now we got to match up the rewriter with this grammar. So we'll go code, item scope, there, item scope, item other, yeah, scope, subber block, and now we need a function block. What did I call it? Func block. Func block. Func. Function. Now I need name and then a left parenthesis, arg char star right parenthesis block. So here we go. The hard code and open paren. We put in the arg chars as is, and then the block. I think we go down to block, big block is now little block, and when we see one of these, we open a brand new macro scope. So here's the Unicode parentheses, around the rewrite rule, and it calls the function push new macro scope. It takes these innards and stuffs them here, and then it pops macro scope at the end. Again, the syntax at the moment, someone needs to change to allow that to be put down here, but at the moment, the way it is, I have to stuff it into the rewrite rule and pop macro scope at better return to nothing. Let's hit that support.js. And so this logging stuff is just boilerplate. I've stuck in this stuff. The line ink stuff has to do with the first pass of this thing. Draw out the inhaler uses that. I could have put different supports for each of these, but I didn't. I just jammed them all in here. There's not that much code, so I just put them all together, and I don't really care. Ink brace, deck brace, what is that stuff? Oh, okay. Earlier I was looking for, so we actually don't need any of that stuff anymore. That's from earlier stuff. The class dict is to do with creating a stack of dictionaries. So every time we enter one of these scopes, we create a new empty dictionary, and we stuff def synonym macros into the topmost dictionary. Here's where we do it, and here's where we pop it. And so push new macro scope is here. Okay, so I decided to create it as a function, and so I've created macros as a new dict stack object, and then in this case I push the empty dictionary. I log the fact that I pushed it. Don't really need that, but it helps me debug, and I return nothingness. And pop macro scope does the opposite. It pops it, logs it, and it returns nothingness, which is what I needed here. I need nothingness here. Memo macro we're going to use further down. So when we find a macro, we get a name and a string related to that macro. So we grab the top scope. In this case, I popped it off. Probably can be more efficient than that. I add the string into the scope, and then I put the scope back onto the stack. And then later I'm going to want to do lookups, and that's just going to do a macros.lookup, which hopefully works in a loop from top to bottom of the stack, looking for the key in the topmost stack, then the second to the top stack, and so on until there's nothing left in the stack of dictionaries. Save that, go back to where we were. So we were here talking about that. So we push, every time we see a new block, which can only happen in the grammar here and here, here and here. Every time we see one of those, we create a new scope, and then we just evaluate innards, and we wrap hard-coded braces around it. And that'll hard-code a blank into it, and then hard-code the result of this, which is the empty string. So it'll be open, brace, whatever the innards are, interpolated, close brace, space, and empty. Block innards is the next grammar rule. We're looking at these rules one by one to see that the rewrite rules match up. So there's block innards rack. Does that look right? Left brace innards plus innards plus right brace and recursively more question mark. And if we pattern match that, then we hard code braces around the innards and we append any more if there is more. If there aren't more, that's the empty string. The block innards pattern is this rule. And what does that say? It's the pattern P, more question mark, and we rewrite it as just interpolate the pattern and interpolate the more if there is more. If there is more. And other is this thing which says the character should be any, more question mark. This thing doesn't turn into anything in the semantics rewriting, because that's really just an operation at the parsing level. It says we'll parse off an any as long as that any isn't a close brace, and then we'll call the rewriter on more, rewriter other. And then pattern, if we see the pattern, we call pattern memo macro, which is this, and that'll do that'll call a memo macro with the name and the expression associated with the macro, and then it creates a string that contains one blank and an internal call to something called xcontinue, which says rewind to the top and try reparsing the whole thing like a macro processor should. It should just keep going until nothing changes. Body char, recursive, open left and right around the plus characters, C's, characters plus. Again, that's just a naming convention. So I know that instead of writing C, I wrote CS for plural of C to mean back here that, I need to remember that to need one or more of. That's just a little idiom that I like to use, but it's not necessary. Flat is just open, close, not an open, not a close, and a something, which in this case, in the simple case, we're just getting characters one by one, and these things are just parsing commands. They don't turn into anything at the rewrite level, so only this thing gets sent to the rewriter, and that's the flat rule. Okay, then there's a simple pure expression, parenthesized, left paren, expression right paren, and then we hard code, we interpolate the expression in hard code parentheses around it. An int just passes the integer in, and that just gets interpolated with a hard-coded space in front of it to defeat space skipping in further passes. Int is possibly a minus sign followed by one or more digits, and that's what I've said down here. And again, I stick in a blank for posterity. I do an ID. An ID says it peels off one letter, and I augment the built-in letter with underscore. So it's either A through Z, capital A through capital Z, or an underscore. And that's what this is. And then after that, we can have 0 or more alphanumerics or underscores, and that's what that is. And thus far we're still missing rules for argchar. Argchar rec is open a left paren, a C's star, and a right paren, followed by more question mark. And if we see that, then we do 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Interpolations. I could put interpolate DLP. I'm feeling like I want to optimize at the moment, so we'll put the C's here. Yep. And then that should be no errors. And the last one is argchar other, and it gets one character, and we'll just interpolate the character like that. Save everything, and let's see how that works. Dev.bash scope fun clock. Somebody has to relearn how to type. Fun clock, where do I put that? There, func block. There. Clear that garbage out of the way. Do that again. Call stack size exceeded. Okay, that's because I'm going one character at a time and getting really deep recursion. So we want to try and optimize that. So here one optimization would be any number of not squigglies. It's got to be not open squigglies too. And it's got to be not apply syntactic pattern. So I put 3 knots in front of the any. So that should collapse a whole pile of these together. Doing a plus produces less churn on the internal data structures of OMJS. Is there any other place I can? Argchars. So in this case, argchars are matching open and close parens. So I can optimize this by not allowing those two. So I'm negative matching those two kinds of things. If it hits one of those and says, then it'll pop back up to this, and it'll continue trying to match this rule, or it'll be a syntax error of some kind. So let's see, did that? Maybe that worked. We'll see. Create undefined. Undefined is a JavaScript silliness, probably a typo So that is a function create. So we went into here, we were doing this, and the undefined turned into this block. The block thing appears. Oh, the argchars were okay. Nothing there, and there should be a block there. And what we got in a block is the innards. Innards has to be plus. Any other strange typos here? Block innards plus here. Innards. Sometimes I mistype. I type block innards instead of innards here. And these names don't really matter. You can put any name you want here. I could put X here if I wanted. I was hoping to maintain rememberability and readability at this point. The grammar says block innards. I don't have to match that. It's just, this is just a JavaScript variable that gets this subtree stuffed into it. See, that's starting to look okay. Try that again. Something, it's still doing undefined here. So I'm not seeing what the problem is. Something. It's this part. Well, if I want to check if it's this part, let's say I'll put a big A here and a big B here. And we'll try again and see if that gives me a clue. There's the big A. So yeah, I am looking at the right place. It's this part. And that part. Something about that innards isn't returning. It's this stuff returning back into here. And then popping. If you're watching, you probably already see what my problem is. And I mean, we're keeping this simple so that we can get rid of the stupid typos early in the game. I sometimes forget to save everything. So let's just double check. I saved this. And running it again. I expect it to fail, and it's failing, and it's still getting undefined in here. What does that mean? Function create. So it comes in here. Function, the ID is create. And it's unwinding it here. Name. Name, I've spelled that correctly. Argchar, I've spelled that correctly. I don't put the star here, it's on this side. That's kind of prologue-y type of thing. Well, it's not functional notation. And I need to know before I get to this side, when I'm generating code here, I need to know whether this is what's called an iterator in OhmJS or not. Because the code that gets generated for this thing, is different if this has a star, if this is an iterator or not. So it looks like this block part is getting, I don't know why it's printing it twice. It's probably another stupidity in my script somewhere. So this block should come from here. Block innards, right? Does that. And it says I'm looking for block innards. Oh no, it's this block. We're looking at that block here, and it's doing that. That is making sense to me. I remember, so I'm looking down here. Block innards is a left brace, innards plus, right brace. We push a new macroscope, and then we insert the innards here. And then we pop. And the innards here are generated by a pattern match. What? Or any of these three things. All of these three branches have to return a string, and that string gets interpolated up here. There's the interpolation. And here's the three inner things. Rect pattern, other. I optimized this and didn't show the optimization there here. Of course, I'm experimenting with this stuff at the moment. If we use this more and more often, we might want to put in checks for stupidities like this. So that really says, I see the pattern. No, I see one or more any's at this point here. And it's called C's. That's probably where the unidentified is coming from. So unfortunately, JavaScript lets me mistype the name of the variable was called C, but I mistyped it as CS, and that probably resulted in CS as undefined. Let's save everything, and let's try again. There we go. That's looking good, promising, and no failures anymore. Frish, did it get optimized? Create. Yes, so the def synonym disappeared, but the replacement didn't happen because down here I haven't bothered to deal with replacements yet. And maybe I'll stop the video at this point, think about that, and then start a new video when I'm beginning to deal with that issue.